Hey kindergartners, I'm back with another frog book. So this is another informational book all about frogs, and we're going to see if we can learn anything new today about frogs, or if it's a lot of information that we've already learned on Monday and Tuesday this week. So this is the book Frogs, and it's really fun because it has like these transparent pages in this book. So I'll try to show you guys that. So look at the top, they have all sorts of different kinds of frogs. In the swamp, you can hear frogs croaking. So here's a swamp, and you can hear frogs croaking. And guess what? Frogs are super loud. Miss Wallace has a pond at her house, so it's like, here's my house, and then the pond is kind of far away. I can't see the pond from my house, but you can hear the frogs that live in the pond croaking at nighttime, especially in the summertime when they start to come out more and they're more active. The common European frog lives in water. The frog breathes and drinks through its skin. Oh, so that's a fact that we learned on Tuesday, that the frogs drink and breathe through its skin. The skin is very smooth. The frog catches food with its sticky tongue. So look, we talked about that too, how it has a sticky tongue and it's catching a fly. The frog moves through the water like this. Oh, look. So at the top, it shows us how the frog moves through the water. It uses its legs. His legs go out, in, and then kind of straight, in, out to move. To help it swim, the frog has 4 fingers on its front feet and 5 fingers with webbing on its back feet. So it has fingers to help it move better in the water. To dive, the frog can pull it in its eyes to keep them safe. So here's how the frog looks. And look, then when it's diving, it kind of sucks his eyes in. We talked about that when in the Fantastic Frog book too, how when the frog eats, sometimes he sucks his eyes in. I thought that's what it said. Let's see. Oh no, you know what? It said that he sucks his eyes in to hide from predators sometimes. So that's pretty neat that he's able to do that. In the spring, male and female frogs mate in the water. Several million eggs are laid and fertilized. So here's the frog with all of the eggs, and here's all of the eggs. Oh, and look, this is a fun page. Ooh, what did the eggs turn into? You're right, tadpoles. Several days later, tadpoles hatch from the eggs. The tadpoles use their gills to breathe in the water. So the gills help the tadpoles be able to breathe when they're in the water. At 5 weeks, the tadpoles grow their back legs. So this is what the tadpoles look like when they first come out of the egg, and then they start to grow feet. The tadpoles now look like frogs and swim towards the riverbank. So here's the tadpole, but it's turning into a frog. It's going to start to lose its tail. It will shrink back in. At 9 weeks, the tail gets smaller and the front legs appear. At 12 weeks, the tadpoles grow lungs. They can breathe air now. So that's very interesting. We didn't learn that in any of our other books. The frogs start to grow lungs just like we have. We have lungs as well. And that is what helps them breathe when they're outside of the water. After 3 months underwater, the frogs can now leave the water. They are now amphibians. Amphibians can live in water and on land. So when they first are born, they cannot leave the water. But then once they grow their lungs, they turn into amphibians. And amphibians are super cool because they can live on the land and also in the water. That would be really fun. Can we live in water? No, we can swim, right? Our bodies can stay in water for a little bit of time, but not live in water. We're not mermaids. Frogs are carnivores. They unroll their tongues to catch insects and invertebrates. So there they are eating insects. We are also carnivores. But the frog is about to be eaten too. A ringed snake and a pike are nearby. So snakes and pike, this is a type of fish, they eat frogs. Also bass, small and largemouth bass will eat frogs as well. The frogs can move slowly on its four legs, but it can also use its long legs to leap. Oh, look. So a frog does a lot of jumping. And this book taught us that the frog can jump up, some frogs can jump up to 20 times their size. That's really cool. To attract a mate, male frogs slide into the water and sing, inflating their vocal sacs. So when you hear frogs croaking at night, that's what they're doing a lot of times. They're trying to find a mate. And this is a really fun page too, because it's another transparent page. Here they are. So here's the male frogs, and they're singing to try to find a female frog. Tree frogs, cousin of the common frog, often live in trees and are very colorful. So if you ever see a frog that's colorful, it's probably a tree frog. Also, tree frogs can be the regular green color that looks kind of like the common frog. So this is a European tree frog, but there's lots and lots of different kinds of tree frogs. There's a veined tree frog. This is a flying frog. This one's super cool. This one's a red-eyed tree frog. That was like the frog that we found in this book, the red-eyed tree frog. Look at this one. It's called a strawberry poison dart frog. He looks, wow, he's like red and blue. This one is a polka dot poison frog. This one is a poison dart frog. This one is green and black poison dart frog. Ooh, poisonous frogs. This one is a golden poison dart frogs. Wow. It says, you can recognize dart frogs by their bright colors. They are not edible, so that means that other animals should not eat them. And they are actually very poisonous. So if you ate the frog, you would not be living anymore. It says this frog's venom can be fatal for humans. Do you know some people eat frogs? Yep, but you should not eat that kind of frog. Even though toads can swim, they prefer to live in gardens. So this is a toad. It's different from a frog. The yellow-bellied toad is the king of camouflage with his spotted back. So here's it's called a king yellow-bodied toad, or a yellow-bodied toad. I have seen those at my house before. And these are all sorts of different frogs. This one lives in South America. It's a Chilean Andes toad. This one lives in India. It's a tree toad. This one is an Argentine horned frog, and it lives in South America. This one's a giant rain frog. He looks really, really different than the frogs we're used to. That one lives in South Africa. This one is a cane toad. He lives in Australia. And this one is an oriental fire-bellied toad. He lives all the way in Asia. So they have frogs in all different parts of the world as well. Oh, look at this page. It's super cool frog. Male toads have very large vocal sacs. So here's his vocal sac. And remember, that's what helps them find a female mate. So that's how a good way you could tell if it's a male or female. Because if it's a male, they're going to have a really large sac right under their chin. Okay, so that was it about frogs. This book also has some other amphibians and reptiles. So we learned a lot of interesting facts in here about frogs. I really like the fact where it talked about how at 5 weeks the tadpoles grow their back legs. So this book, The Tale of the Tadpole that we read, it talked about how they grow their back legs, but it didn't tell us that they do that at 5 weeks. And also it talked about how at 9 weeks the tail starts to get smaller, and then their feet appear, their legs appear. And then guess what? At 12 weeks, they're going to grow lungs to help them be able to breathe. And then it said after 3 whole months, so that would be probably about 16 or more weeks, then they can come out, and they're actually amphibians because they can live in the water and the land. The toads that you see outside You might find those like when you're walking. You might find those when you're walking like by a lot of trees or in some brush. You might find the toads, and they more so look like brown, very darker colors, more of like a camouflage color. Where a frog that we have where we live is going to be more of the green color. And they will live mostly in the water, in the mud, things like that. Another fun fact that I learned, because like I said before, I have frogs at my house, and I also have a lot of toads at my house, is I didn't know that frogs and toads, because where we live, it gets cold outside. And so I thought to myself, where do the frogs go when it snows? Like, they don't have a lot of fur to keep themselves warm. Frogs will actually hibernate. They will dig little holes in the dirt, and they'll cover themselves in the mud. Because the mud is going to keep them moist. Because remember, that's how they breathe, is by keeping their skin wet. It'll keep them safe from people eating them. Or not people, animals eating them. And it will keep them safe from the cold so that they don't freeze. So I thought that was a really interesting fact. Thank you guys, and tune in tomorrow to hear our super fun froggy story. Bye-bye.